Well, it's morning for me. I'm not sure what it is for you, but welcome to Conversations with the Universe from magical Vancouver Island, Canada. I'm Monika, Carless, your host, and I'm an author and intuitive mentor. And today I'm super excited to share with you the wisdom of my friend and colleague, Ingrid Turner. Hello, Ingrid.
Hi, Monica. Thank you for having me on today.
I'm so excited. I'd like to start with reading your bio so people can know who it is that you are and what you do. That's okay?
Yep.
Alrighty. So you're a minister, a spiritual channel, a psychic medium, and a spiritual teacher. And I can attest from my own personal experience that you have been so incredibly and powerfully beneficial to me as a human being with your gifts. You partner with Divine Spirit to help people realign with their power and take ownership of their present life, releasing the grip of shame and trauma. And that's so big. That's so important. You are here to elevate the consciousness of the planet by freeing one beautiful soul at a time from the entrapment of shame, guilt, trauma, and low self-worth. You're a psychic, medium, a faithful channel for Divine Spirit, and an excellent teacher. You have a knack for making the esoteric accessible and helping people ferret out their natural, spiritual, psychic, and hidden gifts and creating a lifestyle around those gifts. How amazing is that?
It's a pretty good life, I gotta say. I'm into it. I'm into what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yes, you are. And I know from personal experience and from watching you help other people, what an impact you have on your consciousness. And so that is one of the reasons I wanted to interview you. And so one thing that I'd like to ask you is, to begin our interview, is what does sovereignty mean to you?
Sovereignty is full ownership of your being. Mm-hmm. And to get to that place of sovereignty, you have to line up with who you really are. What you said to me one time was wild, sovereign, and free. Mm-hmm. So I've been thinking about those three things. I kind of put them into their own little buckets and felt into it. And, sovereignty is sandwiched between your wild and your freedom. So your wild, I would say, is really coming to understand yourself, coming to accept yourself, coming to love yourself and all your weirdness, because we're all really weird. The more authentic we get, the weirder we get, the weirder we understand we are, and coming to love that. Sovereignty is loving your wild, loving your authenticity, loving who you are, the weirdness that is in all of us. And so many of us grow up trying to not be weird and trying to hide that and really squelching our wild, shoving it down, not being wild. But sovereignty is the ownership of that, the ownership of your wild, the loving your weird. And then the freedom comes from that, because when you really accept yourself, what they say, warts and all, but usually the warts are just things that we perceive are not appropriate, like we shouldn't behave that way. Once you really accept that, you're totally free. Nobody can box you in. Nobody can box your mind in. Once you really love and accept yourself, that's it. Game over. You're no longer susceptible to outside control, to outside manipulation, to outside influences. You have yourself totally aligned and sovereign. And it's interesting you bring up the word sovereign. It's been something that has been coming up in my purview for a few months now. It's like, I want sovereignty, and I mean sovereignty in my being. I want that. I'm really working towards that. And the two bookends to that are your wild and your freedom. Wild, get wild, love your wild, own that, and be free. It's powerful, I think. I loved it when you asked me about that, or asked me about that before. I went, oh yeah. Like, oh, that's good. Yes.
Thanks, Ingrid. I love what you just said there. The one thing that stood out for me was you have yourself. And I think that that's such a powerful statement, because maybe we don't step into the ownership of ourselves, like the love of ourselves and the self-worth and having ourselves, because we're always looking outward to what we have and to who we have. We have a partner, we have children, we have experiences, we have the way we create our abundance, our jobs or our businesses. But just getting back to that basic of I have myself, that is so empowering and can ground us so deeply into what we're doing on the planet. So thank you for that. I really, really, really love that.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Yay. I'm just really thinking that people will be interested in a bit of your personal story about finding purpose. You from working in corporate to being a spiritual channel, and I can imagine that was a huge dichotomy and a huge from.
That was an adventure in wilding, if anything.
Yeah.
I spent 6-7 years working in marketing and technology. Mm-hmm. And, I'm a workhorse. I've been working since I was 12 years old. I got a job at an incense factory and started packing incense when I was really young, out of middle school, I'd walk over there. So I've always really felt that was important. I've always been very security focused. And, I just worked my way up. And I landed in the media and entertainment industry by accident, and I was in the marketing department, and I worked my way up to management, to marketing, management, and technology. There are a lot of really fun things about working in tech. It was changed all the time, which I really like. There's always something new. It was fast paced. It was interesting. I was learning a lot. But there was this, I started to become more and more anxious, more stressed. I was a solo mama, so I had my son by myself that I was supporting, which kind of added to that sense of, needing to be secure and provide for him. So what happened is, to cope with my stress and my anxiety, and I just said, oh, it's work stress, oh, it's mom stress. I didn't have a good sense of really where I was coming from. I started drinking a lot. And at first it was just, maybe I'd cut loose on the weekends and, get a babysitter, but then pretty soon it was every night. I was coming home, just in a state and drinking by myself after my son went to bed. And then it was before he went to bed. And then it was, half a bottle of wine. And then it was a whole bottle of wine. And then it was a bottle and a half of wine. I was like, whoa. What I didn't realize at the time was I was in such a tiny container. I put myself in this tiny container. I was avoiding my wild. I was avoiding my wild. I was trying to be what I thought I needed to be, what my family thought I needed to be, what my culture thought I needed to be, what my son, what I thought I needed to be for my son. And I was very, what's the word I'm looking, like crystallized, and so I thought, well, a move is going to help. I need to move. That's what I need to do. So I moved from Northern California to Southern California. So that's a 7-hour drive, one end of the state to the other. And at first it was like, oh, that really helped. I got a new job. I had a more advanced position. I was, I could see myself as this, business executive, and I was a mom, and I had it together, and it didn't fix it. I still had stress, anxiety through the roof. I still felt so contained and so tight. I mean, my shoulders hurt for years, so much stress and resistance. And I was still just doing what I was doing. And then I thought, okay. Then I need to not work for somebody. I need to start my own business. And that was closer, but I went to start a marketing agency. And I had this brilliant idea. It was like everybody I talked to was like, oh my God, that's genius. And I got people together who were willing to work with me and had this whole team. And I would get clients, and then the bottom would drop out. Like they wouldn't pay, or they would, it was just like, oh my God, kind of one thing after another. And I'm going, okay, what is it? What is it? I couldn't find it, but I knew that my container, I was starting to get that my container was too small. I was starting to understand that. So I was trying to figure out how to make that bigger. And, what happened is my drinking came to a head, which was such a gift, because I realized, I woke up one morning and I realized I'd been making phone calls and I didn't know who I called or what I said. And I was like, oh, this is not good. And, for me, that was really a blessing. I had my son. So my rock bottom it wasn't as rock bottomy as it could have been, I think, because I did have that piece, that sense of responsibility that I always did take really seriously. So, I had been drinking way too much for too many years. I didn't feel like I had good control over it. I stopped drinking on my own for a couple of days and was surprised to find I had physical withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? That's not good. So, I was sitting at home one day, and my son happened to be at my mother's house for a visit in Northern California, which was a total blessing because I needed that space. Yeah. And things were just kind of falling apart around me. So I was sitting at home, and I was like, if I stay here like this, I'm going to go get a bottle of wine, which I don't want to do, but I really, really want to do. So I fired up Google and I typed in AA meeting Los Angeles, and I found one and I drove to it, just whatever the first one was. I drove to it. I was out of my mind, and I was such a tender ball of pain, and it's like this big red tender thing, and if you poked it, I would just fall apart and start crying. So I didn't want to see anybody, but I didn't know what else to do. Yeah. So I walk into it. Turned out to be like way farther away than it needed to be. But I drive there and I walk into this meeting, and I really have to say, from that day forward, it's like serendipity took over my life. This is, what happens. I walked into a meeting. It happened to be a beginner's meeting. I had no idea. I just walked into wherever I needed to go. Yeah. And the topic was why, or what happened. That was the topic. What happened? Why'd you stop drinking? Yeah. And I was like, and it was this big circle, and people went around one by one and they shared their what happened. And I realized that everybody was telling the same story, different packaging, same story, same emotional experience. And then I happened to meet a wonderful woman who became my sponsor in AA, 12-step program. And I stayed in that program for a year. I was pretty religious about going. And that was really my first step back into spirituality. That was the first little lip of my awakening when I started to really expand that container, because I had become an energetic mismatch for all the alcohol I was consuming. Mm-hmm. So I spent a year kind of doing that. And as it came on a year, I was getting that percolating. I had become more aware of myself because I wasn't numbing myself out. And it's like, something's bubbling more. There's more here, but I didn't know what it was. And then a friend of mine invited me to a shamanic journeying event. And I went, okay, all right, I'll go. And that was the moment. That was the moment. I went to this event. I didn't know anybody. I was super uncomfortable, but I knew I had to be there. And, just before I went, I had this thought, and I don't even know why it came up, because it wasn't really what I was into at the time. I still wasn't doing my spiritual work. I was still trying to do the corporate box, but like my own way. So it was a little bit of a bigger container, but not nearly big enough. And I had this thought as I was heading out the door to go to this event. I thought, God, I really like to see. I wonder if my dad would show up. So my dad's had been dead 20 years at that point. And I was like, okay, that's weird. And I went, oh, whatever. And when I got there, they started telling the story about this raven that had flown into the house and hung out in the corner and wouldn't leave. And what was interesting about that is shortly after my father passed away, my mother and my brothers always felt like ravens were when he was close by. Yeah. So I was like, I didn't put it together though when I got there. I was like, oh, okay. Totally didn't put it together. So then we're sitting there, and the person who was running it, he was a really neat man. He was talking, and every time I heard him talk, it was like really relating to what I was going through, what I was experiencing. Of course, now I don't remember what it was, but at the time, it was like, oh, it really, And then, we kind of sort of disperse and starts the event, and there's not a lot happening. There's like a pause, whatever was happening. And I was sitting there just feeling really uncomfortable because I was by myself. I didn't know anybody. And this adorable little woman saddles up to me. She goes, hi. She goes, would you like some energy healing? Okay. I guess. So I lay down in front of her, and someone puts her hand on my abdomen and one on my heart. And she just, starts doing it. And I'm laying there for a couple of seconds. And she's chit-chatting a little bit. And I'm starting to really feel something, which I hadn't, before. And she's doing this, and she goes, and then she gets this interesting look on her face. And she goes, oh, your dad's here.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know this woman's name. I don't know anything about her. She doesn't know my name. I say, fucking excuse me? And she goes, yeah. And she starts talking. And she starts giving me messages. And she's saying things to me that she could not know. She couldn't make that up. And I'm going, whoa. And so by this time, I'm really starting to feel the energy. It's like tectonic plates are moving inside me.
Yeah.
And she's channeling messages from my father. And I'm going, oh my God. Oh my God. And I'm crying and I'm laughing and like all the things.
Yeah.
And then what I noticed is the different people, it was a group of people, they all kept coming up and putting their hands on me. Beautiful. So then I'm saying to her things like, oh my God, tell him this. And because I don't know the first thing about what she's doing, and she gets this, I'll never forget the look on her face. She gets this completely blank look, just blanks out. And she goes, nope, he wants to talk to you. And as I was saying, I can't do that, I felt this energy, this white hot energy go into my crown, enter my body through my crown, completely fill my body and explode inside me. It exploded inside me. And that was my awakening. I spent the rest of the night completely open to spirit, chatting with my father, whoever else wanted to come in, going, oh my God. And the whole community was so like, right on,
Yeah.
And that changed everything. That blasted open my container.
Wow.
So after that day, I realized I can't have two different sides of my life. I can't work over here and do spirit over here. They have to come together. So since that day, I've been working on bringing those two things together in whatever form makes the most sense so I can be of service. But that's it. That was my awakening. That was the big one. It was beautiful and intense, and it was a before and after moment, totally defining.
Wow, that's, every time I talk to you, I hear another layer of your story. Like I knew bits of that, but I hadn't heard it distilled into this one nugget before. Yeah. And so I'm just learning so much more about you and how you found your inner gold. And I'm sure that there were lots and lots of core wounds that preceded that whole decline into drinking as much as you were drinking.
Yeah.
And now I'm more cognizant of what your journey was, from like core wounding, to finding the gold within yourself and stepping more into purpose, which, that's part of sovereignty and being wild and free, is being able to transcend and transform those core wounds and, step into purpose, which is what we're all here to do. And I know that you've stepped into your purpose because I witness it on a daily basis when you share with your tribe. And so now, one thing you said something to me a while ago is that it takes 10 minutes for an emotion to run through your body. And before you had said that, I had never heard that before. And I mean, I'm aware of how our emotions run through our body.
Yeah.
That we're working with that, but I didn't know that it takes 10 minutes for that to happen, and that we actually can do something with that. Now, you're doing something called Matic Renewal.
Yeah.
And so I know Matic, which is like detaching like your body work from what your brain is doing, what your mind is doing.
Yeah.
But you're doing Matic, SOUL.
Yeah.
And I'm so intrigued by that. And I wonder if you can just tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah. So Matic Renewal is somatic work, but we are taking the energy. We're taking a spirit. We're taking a spiritual. The way to connect with God consciousness, to really reach that all-encompassing connected state, is through the body, through the physical experience, through your experiences. We are here for the whole spectrum of the human experience.
Yeah.
So what happens though is we don't understand how to experience some of our emotions. And this starts way young. And it's nobody's fault. It just is what it is. It's like, what happens is you run, you walk into a room when you're a tiny child and you see your mother and you have all this love for mom or something, and then suddenly she's irritated, she's having a day, she's busy, she barks at you to get out of here. She's been, she has a moment. This is not a blaming mom thing. This is just she has a moment.
Yeah.
A well of emotions arise in you and you don't know how to process it. You don't know how to feel it. So you stuff it. So you push it away. But the thing is, that emotional experience, it never goes away. It dogs you for the rest of your life until you have that emotional experience. So what it turns into is a trigger, right? So a trigger is over the top emotional response to the situation. So your trigger shows up, you walk in and you see a woman in a blue sweater and you start having feelings about that, but it has nothing to do with the woman in the blue sweater. That's the story your mind is creating. So your triggers are here to get you back to that emotional experience. You're seeing the woman in the blue sweater, reminds you of mom in her blue sweater when she met you, and you don't even have a conscious memory of it, but you got feelings about it, right? So the trigger is trying to just get you to have that experience. It's saying, come back in, have that experience. Once you have that experience, you're done with it. That trigger then goes away. Now, the story that we create, that horrible woman with the blue sweater, how dare I just noticed you're wearing a blue sweater. Sorry. That horrible Monika with a blue sweater, right? The story is your ego, your mental response.
Yeah.
Trying to keep you out of the experience. It's projecting, it's blaming, it's putting it out here. So what we do with our soulmatic renewal work, which is just a play on words for somatic. Soulmatic is, we don't know how to have that emotional experience. So the first thing we do is we bring it into the body. Okay. We bring it into the body. We say, where do you feel it in your body? Well, if you're having a triggery response to mom yelling at you, maybe the first experience you had of mom yelling at you, you're going to feel that maybe in your heart.
Yeah.
It's going to clench. And it's going to, so we just start to go, okay, well, let's just talk about the body experience. You don't have to have the memory. You don't have to consciously know where it comes from. So we bring it into the body. Okay, what's the body experience? And then gradually we drop down in and we start to have emotional responses. Okay, so describe to me, what's your emotional response? What are the emotions you're feeling? And we're sinking down piece by piece by piece by piece. And you know that you've integrated it. It's not about clearing it. It's not about getting rid of it. It's about experiencing it. Once you experience it, people will either laugh or cry, typically. They get that emotional response. And then there's a poof, a clearing out feeling. Yeah. And you get to this point where you're like, oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're done. You're just done. And then that trigger goes away. Now, sometimes, I've worked with people, we've done that one time and poof, they're like, it doesn't, they don't have that trigger. Other things, it can take some going back. Some kind of going back in and peeling back layers because it's very intense, and so we have to be more gentle with it. But that's really was spirit guided for me. And I'm not a therapist, I've never trained in this stuff. Everything I do is spirit led. It's spirit connected. Yeah. So as soon as I start kind of doing this work, I start hearing like, oh yeah, that's at da, da. And I'm like, oh, okay. So nothing I do, I think, is new. I think that I feel like we are all channels for spirit giving the same message. It's coming through different filters because not everybody's going to connect with me. Not everybody's going to connect with you, Monika. Mm-hmm. They got to find the energy that they connect with, the filter that they can hear it through. Somebody can hear a truth 15 times, 15 different people. The 16th person, the way they say it, the turn of phrase, their filter, the spirit is moving through. That's going to do it for them. Like, oh, I get it, So that's the work that I do to really help people not clear it, not get rid of it, to integrate it, to make your experience as a part of your spiritual tool set.
Oh man, I really love that. And I'm really resonating with the whole trigger being a reminder. We try to run away from our triggers.
Yeah.
So now we've stuffed down the emotion. Now we're going to stuff down the trigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're helping people accept those triggers as medicine and as teachers, and to go deeper into that emotion and help yourself to feel it. And then once you've felt it and you've understood it, then you've experienced it, and now you don't have to it doesn't have to keep coming up for you as a trigger.
Yeah.
So you've learned it. You've learned that part of yourself. And you're right. Like we do, as I was listening to you speak about that, I thought so many of us are teaching the same thing, but it's clothed, in a different garment.
Yeah.
Even though it's not new, it's new to the person that's hearing us explain it, because that person is relating to us personally.
Yes.
They feel safe with us, or they feel safe with me, or they feel safe with you. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. That's going to be awesome. I think a lot of people are going to really benefit from that way of seeing it. And I've had the same experience where I'm not a therapist either. I'm not trained in that, but I know that what I'm channeling through spirit has value. And I do also hear that from people. Oh, I learned that kind of sounds like this kind of therapy I did with, whatever.
Right.
Whoever.
Right. Right.
I don't have a name exactly for it, but I know that what I'm doing is coming,
Yeah.
to,
I got my Baba tribe on the naming for the work that I was doing, because it was, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, "Oh my gosh, I got so much more done with you in an hour than I did years of therapy." Yeah. But that being said, I feel like the work that I do, the spirit work that I do with people, and really any spirit work, works great in conjunction with therapy too.
Yeah.
I think it's really, and I have recommended to my client, to some of the people who I work with, like, you should see a therapist, not because I think there's like something horribly wrong with them, but because that feels like that would be a good adjunct, like something that would be even more beneficial. That always feels good. Yeah. And same thing with 12-step programs too. If somebody's really struggling, I'm like, well, this is a program that can work for you as well in conjunction with the work we're doing. And with the somatic renewal that I'm doing, that really changed the way I work too. When I downloaded that from Spirit, I've been doing a lot of readings, channeling. I, teach people how to do this, but I don't work with very many people on that one-on-one capacity of the somatic renewal, because it's intense, and I want to give people as much attention as I can when I'm doing that. That feels really important to me. So I only take about 2 clients a month for that work.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really committing to that person's journey. That's really,
that feels really important to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's important for us in business as spiritual mentors to understand what it is exactly that we're here to do, and then to offer that unapologetically. And we're developing, like we're always developing. We're learning about what it is that we're here to do anyway. Our purpose is not this like one thing you decide when you're 12, this is my purpose, and then you do that. You're always building, right? So
it's always expanding, because we are always expanding. The way Spirit showed it to me is like, say your potential is a bubble around you, right? It's sort of arm's length. You stretch, and you hit your potential, right? Boom, I reached it. And then that potential, boom, it expands. And so you're always stretching and hitting your potential, hitting your highest expression. Every time you hit it, boom, it expands. I think that's what the universe does. Creation is ever expanding. And this is just the micro version of creation, is the life that we're living. So your purpose is dynamic. Really, the way I feel is like, your purpose is what you're here to emit, to express, the essence you're here to express. So, we can call ourselves authors or intuitives or mediums, but that's just the packaging. That's just the vehicle. It's what we're here to express. And for a healer, they're here to heal. They could do it as a nurse, as a doctor, as a medium, as an energy healer. It doesn't matter what form it takes, as a counselor, as a therapist. The essence is the healing. That's what they're here for.
Yeah.
I'm a compulsive oversharer of spirit. That is what I'm here for. The vehicle is whatever.
I love that, Ingrid. Thank you so much. I so appreciate your time today, and always like everything that you share resonates with me so deeply. I would like to know how people could reach you if they wanted to hear more of your wisdom, or just to connect with you in general.
Yeah,
where will they go?
So my website is ingridhturner.com. Don't forget the H in the middle stands for my middle name, Heidi. So ingridhturner.com. My email address is just ingrid@ingridhturner.com. Pretty easy.
Thank you, Ingrid. I'm going
Thank you, Monika.
to move around as much as I can, and so appreciate your being on this planet, and so happy that we're on this planet at the same time together.
Me too. Thank you, Monika. I absolutely adore you. I just love being able to connect with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you
for
so
having me.
much. And thank you everyone for joining us. And I hope this has been of benefit. Much love to everyone.
Much love.
Thank you.